There's the big news. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 is coming back for a brand new remaster. Hey, everyone, it's Jeff Keighley, and this is an exciting Summer Game Fest announcement of that news. And to talk a bit about it right now, we've got two very special guests joining us. Of course, the one and only Tony Hawk and Jen from Vicarious Visions, who did the incredible Crash Bandicoot remaster, and they're now teaming up with Tony to bring Pro Skater back, which is a much requested thing to have happen. Tony, this is exciting. I know it's been I think 4 or 5 years since the last time you guys did a game. This is what everyone I think wanted, right? Was like rolling back the clock to the originals and bringing it forward. How did this come about?
It's been there's been a lot of requests over the last few years. I would say even over 5 years, and I could just sense it ramping up, especially as we approach the 20th anniversary of the release of the first THPS. And I was talking to Activision about some other stuff, about some charity events, and the idea was just like, why don't we remaster this? And when it came from them, I said, you don't understand how many people have asked me that. And I try to explain to them that I don't have a team of coders behind me that I can just go make this happen. And they said, yeah, let's get on it. And they immediately tapped Vicarious Visions, and off we went. And I mean, honestly, the end product is way better than I ever imagined.
Yeah, when I first saw it, I was so excited that it was, like what VV always does, which is kind of honoring the tradition of the game, but obviously kind of, fully upgrading it, and not just the graphics, but it's also like the controls and how it feels, because we're moving, 20 years forward in time. Jen, this is, again, VV has done a lot of great things over the history of the company, but now it's like you guys are known for really these, amazing kind of, remasters of beloved franchises. This is, a very different game than Crash. Can you tell us a bit about how you approach this one?
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, we're fans too. VV has been involved with working on Tony Hawk games for years, starting with many of the Nintendo handhelds. And a number of us have been involved for the lifetime of the series. We had a number of people that came over from Neversoft. Myself, I produced 3 of the games. So, you start with that fandom, good things will happen. And so in approaching this, the number one thing for us was to get it to feel right. It's got to be a high quality game that feels like you remember it. So we started with the Neversoft engine, looking at the Neversoft code base for the handling, brought that over, also looked at the level layouts and bringing over the geometry as a starting point. And then you upgrade everything from there, from the animations to the high res graphics, to those quality of life improvements that modern gamers expect. So it's a complete package for the fans who are just really aching for the nostalgia of these original games.
Yeah, and this is so many years later, as Tony said, like 20 plus years. So even the nature of how you control and play the game has changed so much. Because I mean, you remember, Tony, I mean, the old game pads, I mean, it's like analog sticks weren't even a thing. So it's like, I imagine that was a lot of what you had to think about, is like, how can you play this with, new, more sophisticated controllers that give you so much more granularity when you're playing?
Yeah, well, we've had experience with doing this before, yeah. But certainly, if you're an old school player, your thumb's going to drift to that D-pad, and you're going to want to do your tricks that way. You can certainly do that if you want to do that. But newer players are used to playing on the analog sticks, and quite frankly, analog is not as precise. So we had to spend a good amount of time iterating and thinking about, okay, how do we make it so it's just forgiving enough? It understands what you're trying to do, but you still have the challenge.
I'm all about the D-pad, though.
I'm sure. I was going to say, because Tony, you've had so many years of going through different controllers. Even I remember when we revealed the board together one year when you did that. I mean, you've been sort of through everything. When you stepped into this to work with VV, can you maybe talk a bit about the collaboration and kind of how you were giving feedback and sort of where you wanted to take the game? You said still be rooted in the history of it, but obviously update it to today's standards or quality of life, as Jen said.
Yeah, I would say the basis of it was the feel. Does it feel like it responds the way that the original games did? And that's something that we've been kind of missing through, the various versions and attempts at bringing this back. And so when they finally got the feel, and it didn't take them very long, they are really good at what they do, and it's obvious that they're fans of the game. So when I started playing it, it felt like the same response. It felt like the tricks, they worked the same, yet the visuals were just way over the top. I mean, they're exponentially better, obviously, through the systems, but they're even better because they've spent the time to get these levels and to get these maps looking like photorealistic.
Can you guys maybe talk about the, obviously online is a big part of it, but sort of like what is new or different about this game that you've added to sort of the, the core architecture of the, the original two?
Well, of course, online gaming is naturally an expectation from the modern gamer. So, of course, we've got all of your favorite modes from multiplayer that are now online. But it's interesting because I think actually split screen's still kind of a novelty these days. So we're bringing that back. All of your favorite modes again. You can play on the couch with your friends and hopefully one day invite them over. Hopefully soon. And as far as other things that you can play online, we also have Create a Perk that has been improved. Now you can post your levels online, have your friends play them. You can share them online, let them take over and customize them even further. So it's a pretty robust offering of things you can do with your friends out there.
Are you going to have sort of any new tricks or secrets or anything, Tony, like that you wanted to kind of put into these classic levels? I mean, people don't necessarily want them touched, but also I think there's probably some fun. I mean, is there anything kind of new that you said, hey, like I want to switch this out, or something that's bugged you from 20 years ago that you're like, let's change that out?
There are some polished moves, but I was trying to stay as true as we could to the original. So besides the visuals and obviously the responsiveness, we stayed pretty true to the tricks and the maps. And so yeah, I didn't want to mess with that too much. I feel like people are going to be so excited to play exactly as they remember it, but in this new visual field. That's where we want to land.
Yeah, no, and you go ahead, yeah.
I was going to say, I think what's maybe fresh to these two titles is that you'll have a full suite of tricks to play with from even the latter THPS series. Because when we talk to fans and we ask them, what do you remember about these games? And it's really being that skateboarding superhero, doing those crazy endless lines. So we needed tricks like Revert, which came in later, so that you can chain together your tricks. So we added those back into the mix. So I'm really looking forward to seeing people, skate in the warehouse, but do some super crazy high combos.
It's funny. I get corrected all the time because when I talk about the series, and I say, oh, when we introduced the Revert in THPS 2, which was not in THPS 2, but it's like I don't want to remember a time before we had the Revert. So I did insist on adding that to this version, even though I think it came in 3.
It came in 3. That's right. I think what happens is you start playing and your finger just keeps going for that trigger. So you just, again, that muscle memory kicks in and you just want to do the tricks you're familiar with. And so I was doing it. I kept seeing other people doing it. So it made sense that, okay, this is what people naturally are going to want to have.
Right. But I think that it's going to be the same thing. There's sort of this blurry memory of, well, I know this trick. Well, that was in 4. So
Right.
we did include some of those just because people were expect them and they won't remember the timeline of the series like that.
Oh, for
Right.
sure. You said, I think it all, I mean, 3 was so classic. You said, like, everyone just remembers it's sort of like, the classic, Pro Skater stuff. I know around the game, you are doing some work with, like, Create a Park, Create a Skater, and can you maybe talk about that, Janice, or, how you're surrounding that and building that out?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the game has always been about self-expression. So Create a Skater is awesome. We have a ton of diversity in our faces, the hair, the clothing, so many things that you can pick out. Of course, your deck graphics, trucks, wheels, you name it. But I'm really super excited about Create a Park because the VV team has truly modernized this feature. I told you a bit about how you can share online, et cetera, but there are a ton of pieces and parts that you can customize your park with. The new news is that you'll be able to modify many of the pieces. And so modify them. If you want to take a rail, twist it around, turn it into basically like a roller coaster, you can do that. If you want to create some crazy massive mega ramp that goes all the way up into the sky, you absolutely can do that too. So I'm really super stoked to see what our players create with this. They're going to be able to share it online, like I said, and share it with their friends. I can imagine one of the things that I look forward to, because you can tag your parks with descriptors, is people being able to go to their local skate park and essentially build it in the game. So if I want to see what a skate park in Chicago looks like, I can just type in Chicago and boom, something appears. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what people do.
That's amazing. So you get to get in, design some stuff, Tony, I guess, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was the original goal too with all the Create a Park, was that we wanted to share it online, and it didn't come of age yet. So now is the time for sure.
Having done this, Tony, does this make you feel like, hey, you want to get into keep doing these again and again? Because I mean, you kind of stopped, and there were definitely a lot of people who were like, I know there were a lot of them for a lot of years, and it's sometimes good to take a break. But I feel like people, as you said, I mean, the audience still wants it, right?
Yeah, and there is a strong nostalgia and attachment to the original, at least 4, THPS 1 through 4. So, I mean, 1 and 2 is the jumping off point. I would love to be able to do more down the line. I think that we, especially with VV, like, we can make this stuff look spectacular. Even 3 and 4, we're still only on PlayStation 2. So we've come a long way with the technology, and I think that these guys truly are the best ones. Like, they're the most qualified to do it. And so every time I get a new version, I can't believe how much better it looks. I mean, that's the truth.
No, VV, you've done such a great job, Jen. I think that's the thing that, with games, it's sometimes sad because, we don't have that backwards compatibility of all of these old, systems. So all these games that, I grew up playing, it's like you just can't really play them anymore, right? And if, on a PC, sometimes you can find old versions of games, but old, as you said, like PS1 games, PS2 games, it's like you can't just pop them in. So the fact that they're coming back, but also going forward in time, and with the fidelity that you guys are able to build around it, and the controls, and even with Crash, where you were trying to figure out, like, how does the jump translate, and how do you move? It's all the moves and the grinds and the lines from the original Tony Hawk, making it feel right on these new controllers, I think is I'm sure you guys have nailed it. Unfortunately, since we're all in quarantine, we can't sit there and play it, but I trust you guys are gonna deliver it, and I'm so excited that it's back. So exciting news, and thanks for being a part of this with us as we virtually bring together the gaming world. But I'm sure everyone will be excited that it's coming out soon, right? I think it's going to be early fall.
That's right. We're coming out September 4th. And if you pre-order today, you can, if you pre-order in general, not just today, you'll get access to that iconic warehouse level from THPS 1. And you'll get access to it early, so before the game releases. So definitely check it out.
That's awesome.
It's kind of like your Pizza Hut promotional disc.
Exactly.
No, I get that's the thing, is that part of this thing with this whole Summer Game Fest thing we're doing is people are at home and they want to, play games because they're not going to be able to go to, events like E3 and stuff like that this year to play stuff. So the fact that you're going to have, the warehouse people be able to play, later this summer is awesome to hear. So, all right, well, Tony, Jen, thanks for joining me. Great to have THPS back and coming this fall. So we'll look forward to seeing more later this year.
Wonderful. Thank
right.
you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.